Poverty is a horrible thing. People are still starving in a world capable of feeding all. To understand how we can enrich the poor, we need to appreciate what true wealth is and how it comes about.
If you were on a desert island and had 1 billion worth of your favorite currency, but had no food, water, shelter or medicine, would you consider yourself wealthier than you are now? Well, of course not. Money is worthless if it can buy the goods and services that you need to sustain life. Money is like a claim check on wealth that can only be used when goods and services are available. For most of the time humans have been on the earth, they have lived on about $1 worth of goods and services per day. In the late 1700s, however, the Industrial Revolution occurred. What we now call the developed world quickly produced wealth that was never before available. In what we now call the Third World, however, people remained poor. What was the difference between the developed world and the Third World? The developed world had more economic freedom, starting with the founding of the United States. Britain rolled back many of its tariffs, taxes and regulations. In Europe, the discussion about economy has changed. Monarchies were marginalized. Lower and middle class citizens were suddenly able to create more wealth too. However, in the Third World, dictatorships still abounded. Even today, these countries are not as economically free as the Western world is. If you divide the world into 4 quarters by the level of economic freedom, you can easily see that freedom translates into more wealth creation. This is why South Korea is wealthier than North Korea, and West Germany was wealthier than East Germany before the Berlin Wall came down. Ironically, countries that are poor and less economically free have more resources than the wealthier developed countries. Rapid population growth and high population density are not major factors in Third World poverty either. In 2013, both Hong Kong and Singapore, with over 15 times the population density of either China or India, created more than 6 times as much wealth as these less populous countries. Countries that enjoy the highest economic growth rate often have the highest population growth rates as well. For example, between 1775 and 1975, United States had the biggest population explosion in history. Yet Americans are among the most well-paid people in the world. In 1996, the country that rivaled the wealth creation of the United States was also one of the most densely populated. 40% of its people were immigrants and refugees because of its relatively open immigration policy. Oil, raw material, and even water had to be imported because this country had so few natural resources. Government posed virtually no trade restriction to protect domestic industries. This tiny region of eroded hillside was still a British colony in the year that its wealth creation approached that of the United States. How could so much wealth be created under such adverse circumstances? Hong Kong, the city-state described above, had the highest level of economic freedom of any country in the world from 1970s until its return to China in the 1990s. Freedom in this context means freedom from aggression, specifically aggression through government. Freedom is the single most important determinant of a nation's wealth-creating ability today. This is an important lesson to us all. If Hong Kong can become wealthy, well, any country can. Poverty is obsolete. Indeed, it hardly takes more than a few years to turn a country's economy around. New Zealand, for example, found itself almost bankrupt by eliminating tariffs, lowering taxes, and doing away with regulations. It became an economic miracle. The same thing happened in Ireland a few years later. Unfortunately, as this country started creating more wealth, The politicians who bankrupted them in the first place once again began taxing, regulating, and putting up trade barriers. Exactly how does decreasing taxes and regulations enrich the poor? In our next video, we show how and why these reforms help the poor the most.